Hi, I'm your host, Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast today from Midway, Utah in the United States, Nathan Barnes, who's the co-founder and CEO of Greenlight Marketers. Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, Nathan. It's a real privilege to have you as my guest.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, John Horn, who was our guest on episode 488 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, suggested that we get in touch with you, and he introduced us, and that led to you being on the show here. So big hello to John and big shout out to him.
Absolutely. John's a great guy. Appreciate the referral.
Now, Greenlight Marketers, you do a lot of work on, your tagline is making marketing easy, which I love, but you do a lot of work focused on generating results as opposed to the vanity metrics that a lot of people look at in terms of advertising or in terms of social media, where they say, we get so many hits or we get so many likes. You're focused very much on, well, how much business does it generate, whatever initiative you're doing. So really looking forward to exploring that some more and exploring that philosophy, because it's very consistent with my approach as well. Before we get started on that, though, what's the impact you're making in the world today, Nathan?
Yeah, one of the things that I really appreciate about working in marketing is we do work with a lot of nonprofits, and so the ability to help them make an impact. But even then, beyond that, realizing that even the businesses that we work with, we're making a difference on them, on their employees, in the lives of their customers. Being able to help them bring their skills or their products to market and have those products or skills benefit the lives of all of their customers as well. So it's not just, I think it's easy to get myopic and look at, oh, what is the difference you're making in the world? And, is it, the volunteering you're doing or the nonprofits that you work with? That's great. And I love to do all of that sort of thing as well. But realizing that we can make a difference even in the business that we do. And impact the lives of others. And if we are helping a business grow and succeed, that's allowing their employees to put food on the table and provide for their families. And so being able to make an impact and see that impact multiplied.
Yes, that's something that I really get excited about all the time. It's not just the impact you have on the person you're providing a service for, but it's enabling them to take their expertise and skills and impact a whole lot of other people. So it's a kind of a magnifier effect, isn't it?
Absolutely.
All right. And you talk a lot about systems for marketing, and I'm a very systems driven person. So talk to me a little bit about why is it important to build a whole system around your marketing program rather than just look at what's out there and take a tactic and say, well, okay, this week I'm going to advertise on Facebook and then after a week, didn't get any business out of that. So next week let's advertise on, I don't know, Google or Instagram and see what happens there. Talk to me about a systems approach to that and being strategic.
Yeah, great question. One of the things that we realized pretty early on is if you're not accurately tracking the results that your advertising campaigns are driving, then you're just kind of shooting in the dark. You don't really know the impact that the campaigns are having. And so when we start out working with a new client, the systems that we have in place it's really important that we help them be able to track all of those different ways that people are reaching out. If it's lead generation of some sort, we want to be able to track if a person comes to the website and fills out that form, if they chat with them on the site, if they pick up the phone and call them. All of those things are really important for us to be able to track, and then to be able to tie that data back into the advertising platform that drove that particular lead, so that we can see the full scope and the full value that the campaigns are driving. So that's a big part of it. And then not even just that, but then going beyond a step beyond that, if we look at the leads, say, that a campaign is driving, well, that's all well and good. And a client, maybe we are able to drive 1,000 leads for them. But what's happening to those leads once they hit the client's hands. Are those leads turning into sales? If not, then something's wrong. They're wasting their money. It doesn't matter if you get thousands of leads if those leads aren't turning then into sales. So we really like to take a step back and help the client look at and focus on their bottom line. I know it's very easy to get distracted, like you said, by those vanity metrics. Here's how many clicks we drove, or even how many leads we drove. But if that's divorced from the bottom line and the impact that whatever your campaign is having on your bottom line, the bottom line of your business, then you're going to quickly run into problems.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what are some of the things that a company needs to have in place before they embark on a campaign like this so that it can be strategic and it can be systematic and they can understand what's actually happening with the campaign that they've set up and how they can then tweak it if things are not working out the way they want them to?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a handful of things that are really important for a company to understand and to know before they get started with any sort of marketing initiative. Obviously, the first one would be, what is it that they're advertising? What is the offer? You'd be surprised how many times working with a client and we say, okay, so what is it that you're actually offering? What are we advertising? Is it a free ebook? Is it a consultation? Is it a phone call, with one of your reps to learn more about your service? And the amount of times I've gotten just that blank look of, I don't really know. What am I advertising? How are we going to get people in the door? So that's obviously the priority number one. What are you going to actually advertise? And then there's a bunch of other things like, what are your margins? If it's an e-commerce business, if they're selling something online, then you need to know what your margins are, and at least an average across the board or an average by category, so that we can effectively know not just how much gross profit are we driving for you, but is that actually profitable once you account for your cost of goods and other things. It's also really important to know, if it's an e-commerce business, what is your conversion rate on your website? What percentage of people reach your website actually turn into sales? If you've been advertising for a little while, you may know that already historically. If it's a brand new, we can go based on some just broader estimates kind of in the industry. Lead generation, same sort of thing. What's your close rate on those leads? If someone reaches out to you via phone, is that different? Are you more likely to close that lead than if they fill out a form on the website? Those types of things are really important to know and to understand before you start advertising. Otherwise, you may get into it and be like, well, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? We're getting all these leads coming in, but we're not closing them. Why?
You touched on.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
You touched there on a number of different touch points, if you like, with potential clients. And they visit your website, they might call you, they might sign up for a free ebook, were some of the ones that I heard. And it occurs to me that in a campaign that we might want to run as a marketing campaign, it is important to know what are the different journeys that people might take through this particular path. And there's a whole raft of them I find that people tend to think that there's one customer journey. So if somebody discovers you, somebody connects with you, and of course at each of those points there's a choice that they abandon the journey. But let's just take it forward from there. Somebody connects with you, there's some form of conversation, and then they decide to buy your product or service. But it's a lot more complex than that, isn't it? So talk to us a little bit more about how can we set up or how can we map out this customer journey in a way that it actually feeds into the marketing system and then gives us a lot of measurements or metrics that we can use at each of these touch points. So what's working and why are people, let's say when they land on the website, not taking the next step? Why are they abandoning there? And yet if they phone us and talk to one of the reps, we're actually turning a lot of those people into customers. So obviously that part's working, but that other part, something's not right there.
Yeah, fantastic question. There's a lot of different things that our team does when working with a client to try and help them identify those touch points. How are people interacting? Why they may be falling off. One thing that we utilize, and I know a lot of other agencies do as well, is call tracking. Essentially, the way that works is we install some code on their website, and we use a third-party call tracking system, so that if someone clicks through from an ad and lands on their website, the phone number that they see is actually a call tracking number. It swaps out dynamically. And then when they call that number, that call can be recorded. And all of the details from, say, Google Ads, if they clicked on a Google ad, about where that person came from can be passed through into that call system. So we're able to then see on the back end, hey, here's what they searched for. Here's the ad that they clicked on. It came from this campaign. And then we can tie that data in to that call. And then our team goes through and we go through and check each of those calls to say, was this a good, valid lead? Are there things that are taking place on that phone call? Maybe maybe you have a sales rep who's just not doing a very good job. Or maybe we start to identify certain common questions that are frequently asked coming up. And then we're able to give that feedback to our client and say, hey, this particular sales rep just is having a hard time with this type of question. You might want to do some additional training here. Or we can say, hey, this particular question is coming up a lot. It may be worth while to add information on the website to be able to proactively address that question so that people aren't having to call you. Because that for every person that calls in and asks that question, there are many more who had that same question, but just didn't take the time and bother to call in. Also taking the time to, you want to be able to provide people as many different ways for them to take the action that you want as possible. So, if your goal is to generate leads for your company, you want to give them the option to call you. But some people may not be in a position when they come to your website to take a call or make a call at that point. And so they'd rather chat with you via a chat pop-up box, or they'd rather fill out a form on the site and have you get back to them. So giving those clear call to actions, providing easy ways for people to take that action is going to be really, really important. Those are a few things. There's certainly more, but those are a few that come to mind.
Yeah. Well, one of the philosophies that I really like there, and I think people really forget about this in business, and that's to make it really easy for the customer.
Yes.
Stop putting barriers in their way. And there's a saying that in one of the training programs I did for a consultancy, that consultancy program that I was interested in licensing, they had this expression called Wamish, which I always remember.
Wamish.
It's basically, why are you making it so hard? and I think of that so often when I'm doing a personal purchase or a business purchase, and I'm looking at something and I think, oh, this is really, they're making it very hard. And I have to say that I have ended up paying a little bit more for a product because I've gotten to the point where I was just so frustrated how difficult they were making it for me to purchase. I was like, I decided this is what I want, and I've gone to I put it in the cart, and I was going to payment. I wanted to find out the shipping cost or something like that at the end, and I thought, this is just so hard. What was that other website that I had that was a little bit more expensive? And that turned out to be a lot easier. And I thought, well, my time, the extra $10 or whatever I spent, my time's actually worth that. So because they've made it so hard, they lost the business. And I think that philosophy is something that people kind of overlook a lot.
Mm-hmm. I know the military has a very similar saying, KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
So I like that. Wamish. I'll have to remember
it. Okay. Now, there have been quite a lot of changes, and I mean, I know of the one where Apple have integrated different privacy settings into new iPhones and their new software that drives them. And it's certainly caught the attention of some of the competitors. There was, I think there was a huge dump in the share price of one of the, it might have even been Facebook, because in their annual report they said this is really going to impact on how their whole advertising works and their advertising revenue. Tell us a little bit more about what are some of those significant changes that are taking place, and what should business owners be aware of in terms of the impact that's going to have on how they run their marketing programs?
Yeah, great question. Definitely seeing, and it's not just Facebook, but Facebook is a prime example, especially as we've seen over the last year here, but more and more of a shift away from that cookie data, where, in the past, and still is largely in effect, if you visit a website, there's a cookie that is installed from that site on your browser to track that you've been to the site and the actions you take on the site and such. But Google, Facebook, all of the advertising platforms are slowly trying to shift away from that and more towards what they call first-party data, data that you personally provide to a site about yourself. If you are a customer and you check out, say, on a Shopify site, you provide all that information. That website now has that information, and they're able to they can provide that data to Google about, hey, this is a customer that purchased. One of the big things that we saw with Facebook this last year because of that, the iOS changes, is, well, there were two things that happened. One, anybody who is on an iPhone, who is within an app, say Facebook, has the ability to opt out. They're proactively asked, would you like to opt out of being tracked? And so, if that happens, Facebook can no longer track what a person does from within their Facebook app, and by extension, if they click on an ad and visit somebody's website, that's not able to be fully tracked. There are some things that they can still track. It just, without getting into a ton of detail, it makes it much more difficult for Facebook to track. The other thing that happened as part of that was Facebook changed their attribution. So previous to that, they would allow you to track actions that took place up to 28 days after someone clicked on your ad. So we've seen this effect and impact clients, especially if they have a longer sales cycle. Not every purchase is an impulse purchase. Not everybody that clicks on an ad is going to buy right away. Now, Facebook only allows you to track those actions up to 7 days after that click. So if someone clicks on your ad and comes back 8 days later and makes a purchase or fills out a lead form or calls you, Facebook's not going to be able to track that any longer. So the combination of those two things, we've definitely seen a pretty significant decrease in the leads and the conversions that Facebook can track from the campaigns. 20-30% decrease in the leads that are being reported is not uncommon. And so I think it becomes all the more important for you to be able to, for advertisers to be able to get people to take an action quickly, to make it as easy as possible for them to take that action that they want, and for advertisers to collect whatever information they can from that person more quickly. So if you have a product, maybe it's a big software as a service product, or it's a business to business product, and maybe there's a longer sales cycle, getting someone to reach out to you to fill out a form, to download a free white paper, to schedule an initial consultation, in those micro steps, instead of asking them to take the full action that you want, be able to capture, if you can capture their name and their email address, then you can set up a drip stream email and follow up with them and sell them on the full product. But you have a way then to continue to follow up with them and continue that conversation.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you mentioned something earlier that I think is another little tactic that's often overlooked. And the philosophy really is simply ask people how they found you. You talked about having unique phone numbers depending on where they come in. So a lot of what you've just described there can be set up with some neat little tricks, such as if I do advertisement A on Facebook, put in this phone number. So I know anybody that comes through that phone number
Yes.
is from that advertisement. And I don't need Facebook to be tracking things for me. I've got a system set up where I can actually know, okay, that advertisement gave me so many phone calls because they were using that number, and that's the only place that number pops up. And likewise, if you're doing A/B testing, you can have different phone numbers for the different ads. The other thing you mentioned there that I think is really important, and I'd like to talk to you about this a little bit more, is the use of a so-called lead magnet. I mean, I don't really like the term lead magnet, but it's really something of value that we give people in exchange for their email address. And the important thing is that email these days, I mean, email is kind of this ubiquitous thing where everybody's inboxes is full of so much stuff that they overlook most of it. And yet it's still such a powerful medium for beginning that conversation, beginning that customer journey. So talk to us a little bit more about the use of email in this context.
Yeah. One of the things that we recommend for all of our clients is that they have and develop a comprehensive email follow-up system. And it's going to vary from client to client on what they need, and if they're selling something online, that's an e-commerce client, being able to set up a cart abandonment email to remind people, hey, you left this in your cart, you didn't finish checking out. Here's a coupon for 10%. Come back and complete your purchase. If they have made a purchase, being able to develop and start to continue that conversation with them, encourage them to come back, let them know about sales that you're offering. And on the lead generation side of things, having a way that you can follow up with that person, continue the conversation, educate them about your product or service. And it varies from business to business on what you need. Some of our clients, that's 2 or 3 emails that follow up with them, over the course of a handful of days. Some of them, it's much longer, and they go into their regular email list, and they're continuing to email them ongoing for the next year or 2 years or however long they stay subscribed to that list.
Yeah, that's a really valuable tool to have is the email. And you mentioned something there. You mentioned a couple of things that I'd like to sort of link together. One is this idea of the cart abandonment, and I see so many people sending me emails saying, "Oh, you popped this in your cart. You forgot to complete the purchase," and I keep thinking, no, nobody forgets to complete the purchase. I mean, yes. There might have been somebody might have phoned up just as I was about to hit the buy button, and then I got distracted and onto other things. But as a rule, most people get to that stage and there's still another touch point to go, and it might be Wamish or it might be they've changed their mind. So I kind of think that this cart abandonment email, like you forgot to make the purchase, is a bit arrogant, self-serving, and a bit insulting when I see it. And I tell people, hey, there's a different way to do that. Yes, cart abandonment email is probably a good thing to do, but the better way to do it is along the lines of, I see you placed product X or service X in the list and you didn't follow through with the purchase, which is a statement of fact. I'm really curious as to what happened and what made you change your mind, which is then giving them an out. It basically says, look, I understand. You've made a choice here. You had another choice at that moment and you made a choice. And then saying, here's something that can help you with the next step. So it might be and this is where I'm linking in what you talked about, educating people. So those emails have to be educational. And I think the cart abandonment email can be a really powerful tool if it's used in that way to educate people, then to say, well, let's say it's a health product, for example, and at the last minute they decided not to buy the supplement. You could send them some more information about the issue that supplement addresses, and say, here's some other ways you can deal with this issue, or here's some tips as to improving that situation. So actually giving them something of value in the form of information and education.
Yes, I love that. That's fantastic. And sometimes what you can offer is maybe a discount. Hey, we see that you didn't complete this purchase. Here's 10% off if you'd like to come back and complete the purchase, along with what you're saying of see if you can solicit that information. Why did you not complete the purchase? Some companies we've worked with will use there are third-party companies that will do a follow-up customer survey and asking them about their experience and why did you abandon. That's completely anonymous and run by a third party. And so oftentimes in that case, people might feel more comfortable with sharing that information. I've seen, some of our clients will do something like offer a consultation. Hey, maybe you didn't have quite the information that you need to be able to make a decision. Would it help for us to, hop on a call with you and talk about the different options and help you find the product or the service that's going to be the right fit for you?
Yeah, that's another really good way to do it. And what you said there is I think that's really important, is taking the responsibility for their decision. So they've made a decision at the last minute. They were almost at the point of purchase, and for whatever reason decided not to purchase. If the business takes the responsibility, well, clearly you still had some open questions, and we failed in answering those up front. So let's get on a call to discuss those is another good approach. Yeah,
absolutely.
Love it.
And that holds true not just in email, that holds true across the board. As a business, our customers should always be the priority, and we should always be looking to proactively identify those pain points. What is it that is keeping a potential customer from becoming a customer? What is it that, is there something that we are not answering, questions that we are not answering? Is there something that they're seeing that is maybe scaring them off or making them uncomfortable? And the more that we can put ourselves in the customer's shoes and look for how we can help them accomplish their goals, the more effective we're going to be. And that holds true for marketing too. As a marketing agency, I tell our team all the time, look, our goal, your job is to view yourself as an extension of our client's company. If we are helping our client be successful, helping them grow their bottom line, and they know that we have their best interest at heart, then those hard conversations that come up, because let's face it, there always will be those things that you have to work through and those challenges. If they know that you're telling them you shouldn't do this, and they don't like to hear that, but they know that you're telling them that because you care about them and their business, it makes things go so much smoother. And ultimately, everybody wins.
Yes, that's great advice. Gold right there. I think it was Mark Schaefer on the episode we had him on that says, and he says this in one of his books, that the business that outcares their competition will win. I can't remember the exact name of the book, but the philosophy is human marketing, or marketing, making marketing human, which is our tagline.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things that you work a lot on with people is marketing events. Tell us a little bit about, are there any significant differences about marketing events as opposed to marketing a physical product or a software as a service type product? And if so, what's unique about events that we need to be aware of if we're doing that?
Yeah, good question. We've worked with a wide variety of different events, e-commerce, lead generation, and each are going to be a little bit different. we tell people we're pretty vertical agnostic when it comes to the types of channels or businesses that we work with. One of the things that's very unique about events is you have a definite end time. Unlike an e-commerce product, as long as people are still buying the product, you can sell the product. A service, if you're a plumber, well, people are always going to need plumbing services. But if you're marketing an event, then the date of the event, you can't advertise that event beyond the date of the event. So it definitely sets a timeline there. And then depending on the type of event that people are that you're marketing, sometimes you have to wait and to start marketing the event until a certain point as well. Depending on what that event is, you may be able to market it a year in advance. But most events, especially if it's a local event, you're probably going to be marketing it a few weeks to a month in advance. If it's an event that requires people to travel, you're probably going to be marketing it several months in advance, up until and you may end your marketing efforts a week or 2 weeks or a month before the event, depending on the type of event that you're promoting. So those are a couple of things that immediately stand out as being different from marketing, say, a service that's ongoing or a product, a physical product.
Yeah, the timing is a big one. One of the things that occurred to me there is using webinars in that, and you mentioned earlier that often there's open questions that are a friction point or a resistance point on that customer journey to a sale. What's your view on using webinars as a tool to answer those questions, and particularly in the case of events? And I'm thinking big ticket events where it's a significant purchase, so that the question of, as a potential customer of an event, the question I have is, will this event give me a good return on the investment I'm making in that? Because I have to spend several $1,000s on travel. I have to spend several hundred on accommodation while I'm staying there for the event. The event registration might cost a lot, and it might be the kind of event where it's a training event. So we've got lots of high profile trainers as well. So it might be several thousands of dollars that the event cost itself is as well. So what are your thoughts on using webinars to start to answer questions, to start to build relationships with people that are interested, so that there's this connection developing before that final decision comes up?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. A lot of big events like that will also take sessions that they recorded at the previous event, and use clips from those sessions, or maybe make entire sessions available as helpful resources for people, whether that's making those available for free or making those available for purchase after that fact. And then that can be very, very helpful in helping someone who's considering attending the following event, the next event that occurs, to be able to view those sessions or portions of those sessions, clips from those sessions, to gauge the benefit that they think they'll receive from actually attending that event in person. There's always things that, attending an event in person, there are benefits, intangible benefits that you receive that you can't get from a webinar. The networking opportunity, a lot of those things you can't replace or replicate in a webinar. But being able to make those sessions available, it's a very effective way to do that. Plus, it allows you to, especially if an event is selling those sessions, either individually or as a package, that could be a great way for them to supplement the income from the actual ticket registrations for the event itself. And then also, I know a lot of events will do, like you said, a short webinar or webinars in advance, maybe with some of the key speakers or with the event hosts to answer questions. Sometimes it's more interactive, and they'll have people actually ask questions during the course of the webinar. Sometimes it's more informational, where it's like a pre-recorded webinar with slides or things of that nature. But both of those can be very, very effective.
Yeah, lots of great tips there. All right. Well, this has been great, Nathan. I really appreciate all the ideas you've shared and the philosophy that you've espoused there, which is keep things really simple, make sure you're tracking stuff and focus on educating. I think those are 3 important points that have come out. It's a good point now, I think, to move on to the buzz, which is our innovation round. It's the same 5 questions I ask of every guest. So the idea is you'll give us some really insightful answers to inspire the listener to go and do something awesome today as a result. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. What's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me personally, the thing that has been most helpful in allowing me to innovate in my life is taking the time that I need to recharge personally. I find if I'm just go, and get super busy with work and allow all of the tyranny of the urgent to take over, and I don't take that time to clear my head, whether that's go for a walk, get out and go for a hike. My wife and I moved to Utah not quite 2 years ago from Texas, from Fort Worth. We were in Texas for nearly 6 years. That's where Greenlight Marketers was started. But we moved here because I missed being able to be outdoors and all of the outdoor activities. So wanted to be back closer to the mountains. So for me, I like to try in the winter, get out and ski, even if it's for an hour or two, just to be able to have that personal time to be able to recharge, clear my head. If I go for a mountain bike, go out for a walk, and just be able to take that time to refresh, to recharge. And I find that I'm so much more productive when I come back. And oftentimes during that time, that will spark ideas that I can then come back and flesh out. I know, listening to your conversation with Wade Galt about the 3-day weekend, that was really encouraging and inspiring for me, and some of the ideas that he had for taking that personal time to make sure that you're able to be more effective and more innovative in the times that you are working.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And I certainly find, sometimes you've got this deadline or you've got this thing that needs to be finished by a certain time and you're stuck on something and you think, I can't afford to go outside and go for, in my case, it's often a bike ride or take a day off to go and take some photographs. They're my kind of hobby passions.
Yes.
And yet the counterintuitive thing is if I do that, I can actually finish whatever it is, usually in less time. Usually I'll have some form of inspiration while I'm doing the other thing that, that's the answer to that issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, quite amazing. All right. Now, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Tying in with that, taking the time to recharge, but always be curious. Never stop learning, never stop asking questions, and oftentimes the times when we've been able to help a client really break through with an issue they're having, being able to just ask lots of questions, really get into the mind of our customer or their customer that we're trying to help a client, and understand what is their pain point, what are their problems, how can we then help solve those problems. So curiosity, never stop learning, never stop asking questions.
Yeah, I love that. It occurred to me that that's ABC. So instead of always be closing, always be curious. So I like that version.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you have a favorite resource you use most often?
Yeah, there's a few things. I'm a Mac user, and so one of the things that's been really, really helpful for me in being able to stay on top of things is I use a program called Spark, which is an email client. There's something similar called Boomerang for Gmail users that allows you to be able to follow up. It will automatically remind you. You can set a reminder to to follow up on an email if you haven't heard back on an answer. It allows you to snooze an email to come back later to address it at that point. And a lot of really handy tools that allow me to be able to keep on top of all of the email communication, make sure that I'm actually responding in a timely manner, make sure that I'm following up if I need something from someone and I haven't heard back, it'll remind me to follow up on it. So those are a couple of things that I found very, very helpful.
Yeah, I love those tools. I'm not familiar with Spark because I'm not a Mac user, but I have used Boomerang in the past. I use one called Gmailius now, which does very similar things. So, and I have it combined with some other tools that automatically sort my email based on who it's from and the subject matter, so that my inbox itself will only have about 10 or 15 emails in it each day, because they're the only ones that go through all the filters and still end up being important and have to be dealt with right then and there. And even then, I will use the Gmailius tool, which is very similar to Boomerang, to say, well, that doesn't need to happen today. That can be done in a week's time. Or if I send someone an email, I can say, remind me in a week's time if I haven't heard back, to follow up and those kind of things. So, yeah, that really valuable. There's so many valuable tools for email that can make dealing with email much easier.
As opposed to it being a drain, because it can very easily become a massive drain.
It can very easily, yeah. All right. What's the best way to keep a client on track?
I think setting expectations up front, both on what a client should expect from you, as well as what you need from them. Oftentimes, it's easy to overlook one or the other of those. But I find if we set those expectations, hey, here's what the timeline is going to look like on our end. Here's what we're going to be doing during that timeline. Here's what to expect. Once we launch campaigns, if you're a brand new company and you've never advertised, you're not going to expect to just be, raking in the cash day one. It's going to take some time to learn and to test and figure out what works and what works well for you, and start to hone in on those aspects of the marketing program that are effective and are working well. Start to eliminate those aspects that aren't working as well. So setting those expectations, not only of what to expect from us, but then what we need from them to be successful. We've had clients. Clients will just disappear. We'll start running campaigns, and then we'll need things from them. And if we can't get that, then we can't help them be successful. For us, we find it very, very important to have at least a monthly check-in call with clients where we can review the performance of their campaigns, talk about upcoming initiatives, talk about what they're seeing on their end, the things that we can't see, what's happening with those leads once they come in. And if we don't have that opportunity to get the feedback from them and be able to look at the data together and talk about everything, over time, it may not happen right away, but over time, performance definitely is going to start to lag. And so, letting them know, hey, this is a two-way street. We're partners in this, and we need you to be invested in your success, as well as us being invested in your success.
Yeah. There's a couple of really important points there. I think the onboarding process is so important with clients, and setting those expectations up front. Here's what you can expect from us, and then here's what we need from you, and then the regular communication, of course. Often people don't do that onboarding so well, and yet sometimes that is the difference between having good relationships with a client or not. Because if there's no expectations set up front, then the client will set their own expectations, and they may be well beyond what you can deliver.
For sure.
All right. What's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
This actually kind of ties in a little bit with what we were just talking about, but viewing yourself as an extension of your client's business, and focusing on what's best for them. As we talked a little bit about earlier, if they know that you have their best interest at heart and you want what's best for their company, even if you have to have those hard conversations of, hey, this isn't working, and we've had clients where we've come to them and we said, we've tried this, 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 and this. We don't see a path forward for this being successful. And I'd rather let you know that now than, 2-3 months down the line, you get upset and when you realize that it's not going to work. I'd rather tell you up front, hey, we don't see a path forward for this being successful. Maybe the business model needs to change. Maybe they're just not competitive with the competition that's out there. And so I'd rather have those hard conversations, but have those hard conversations in the context of them knowing that we want what's best for them. And that makes such a world of difference if they know that you truly care. Yeah.
There's that out caring the competition, really caring about the client success message again. Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, thanks, Nathan. This has been absolutely fabulous. Now, where can people find out more about you, about Greenlight Marketing, and maybe even get in touch and say thanks for what you've shared?
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach us on our website, greenlightmarketers.com. We also have a Facebook page and Instagram, but the website is the best way to reach us if you want to be able to chat. All
right. Well, we'll post links in the show notes, and it's Greenlight Marketers, not marketing.
Correct.
As I said earlier. Plural. Marketers, yeah. All right. Do you have some parting advice, Nathan, for our listeners today?
I think, as we've already talked about a little bit, never stop learning. Always be curious, always be questioning, always be looking to improve yourself, always be looking to improve the lives of those around you and your customers, your clients, and be looking to help them because growing those relationships, as the old saying goes, it really isn't about what you know. Who you know really, really matters. And you can have all the information and all the knowledge in the world, but if you have no way to communicate that to others, if you have no way to network and to work with others and learn from them, you're not going to go very far in life. And so I really appreciate you having me on today. This has been wonderful. I love listening to your show, and so it's a real pleasure and honor to be able to chat with you today. And hopefully some of the things we talked about were helpful for your listeners as well.
Well, thanks, Nathan. Yeah, and taking out of that is the always be learning, always be curious. I love that ABC now. I'll think of that very different now. And also building those human connections that allows you to learn and then share the knowledge that you have and that you gain on the journey with others. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
All right. Finally, who else should I get on the show and why?
One of the authors and podcast hosts that's been a huge influence on me is Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. They wrote the book Extreme Ownership. The Dichotomy of Ownership is another book, really talking about how, as leaders, we need to take ownership for what happens in our businesses, in our teams, and being able to implement that. That's something that I'm striving to implement more effectively in our business. I know he's got a podcast already, but I think that he would be a fantastic guest, and I think that your listeners would learn a lot from him as well.
Okay. Do you know him personally?
I don't. I wish.
Okay.
I wish I did.
All right.
But,
we'll find a way to. We'll find a way to connect with him. I'm not familiar with those books or with that podcast, so I'll dig into that. Find a way to connect with. Is it John?
Jocko, Jocko. Willink is his last name. Yeah.
All right. So we'll find a
Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership, right? So we'll find a way to connect with Jocko and reach out to him and see what happens if we can get him on the show. Thanks so much, Nathan. I really appreciate you sharing your time and your insights with us so generously today. I've really enjoyed the conversation. We've touched on a lot of different points, but I think the key kind of theme throughout is really caring about your customer success. Always be curious, always keep learning, and then some tactical things around how you can make the customer journey as easy as possible for your prospective customers from the moment they discover you right through to when they do decide to make a purchase, and also how to put measures in place that give you information about the success of all of the initiatives that you're taking and how you might be able to improve those. So thanks for that. Really enjoyed it, and all the best for the future, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.